So I got the auditor sides. So I'm reading, and his first line in this side was, Mr. Watson, come in. We have such sights to show you. And I'm like, such sights to show you. It's a Hellraiser movie. I knew it already. I know it from the description. It sounded so familiar. So suddenly I go to the audition for the auditor. I bring my Pinhead action figure and my Pinhead puzzle box because I'm hardcore Hellraiser. I have this stuff. So I take it to my audition and I go, I know this is a Hellraiser movie. And he's like, oh. So then after that, when I got the personal email just sent to me about auditioning for Pinhead, they couldn't use the name Pinhead. Well, they didn't need to because they thought Doug was going to do it. But anyway, it was pretty funny. So I had one audition. I was doing a play at the time, and it was called Martyr, and it was about religious fanaticism. The guy was not ecclesiastical. It was. It's about this student who's in a private school, Catholic school or religious school, and he's so into the Bible that he starts judging everyone in his life, and he's constantly quoting. So it's a really dark piece about religion. And I was playing a minister, or you might say a priest, a very twisted priest in this play. So that's when I got the audition notice in the first place, and I needed to learn all of these lines for my audition for Pinhead. At the same time, I'm having to do this play every night, but I didn't have very many scenes. Fortunately, the director, who's kind of a sadist, I think, has all these pews. They weren't even pews. They didn't have a back to them, but had these wooden benches on either side of the playing space. The audience is out here, and we face away from the action and just sit there when we're not on stage doing our scenes. So it's torture. So the play is like an hour and a half long, and when we're not acting, we're just sitting there waiting to do our scene. So to bide my time, I thought, well, I'm playing a minister. I'll use my dad's Bible that he left me, and I'll print out my lines real small, and I'll put them in the Bible. Because I was going to be sitting there reading the Bible anyway, just for something to do while I wasn't on the stage. And I thought I'll just put my Pinhead lines in here. So that's how I learned the lines. So anyway, I learned the lines. And then I go to the audition. I get the part. I fly out to LA to get my head cast done so that they can do the makeup design. And then I have my friend who I'm staying with please take me to a comic book store. I want to see if I can find a Hellraiser graphic novel. And so he drives me to a comic book store, and I do find a Pinhead or Hellraiser graphic novel. And they only have one. I open it. The first page is there's a minister giving last rites to a prisoner in jail, who's on death row. So then you turn the page, and the very next page, Pinhead breaks in through the bars or through the wall. You know how Pinhead does.
Oh yeah.
And he destroys not the minister, not the prisoner, but the minister, the priest. And I'm like, this is so crazy. I'm playing a priest in a play. I'm out here getting my head cast done to play Pinhead. I don't know. It just, how things like that happen, and you're like, I know this is a coincidence, but pay attention to that.
Exactly.
It means something. I just thought it was so cool. Serendipity, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, that was a really long answer, because the basic answer is I auditioned for it and I got it. So I had one audition, no callbacks. I was the director's first choice. All the people, it was Dimension Films, which was Bob Weinstein. It went up the ladder, but Weinstein was at Cannes Film Festival over the weekend. The final, could have been like the final day of being considered and then finally getting a part. He couldn't get his phone to work, and so he couldn't watch my audition. And so I had to wait like another few days. And then one Sunday morning, I just get a text from the casting director saying, are you awake? Welcome to the movie, Pinhead. And I'm like, Pinhead? This is bizarre.
Yeah.
But it was the way it happened, it was very simple and clean. Preparation is all about, asking for it, being ready for it. luck is all about preparation.
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%. There was another horror icon / legend in that Hellraiser movie.
Yeah, Heather.
Heather Langenkamp. Did you actually? I know y'all didn't have any scenes together.
I didn't meet her on set. I met her at Texas Frightmare weekend, though. After I got the part, I don't remember if I had shot it already. I think I had, yeah, because I had pictures. I wasn't a guest, but she was, and so I sort of didn't really butt in line, but I had these little pictures of me as Pinhead from the set, 'cause it was still a secret. I wasn't going around going, I'm Pinhead. But what's funny is the first day, because I lived in Dallas, so I just drove up to Oklahoma to play Pinhead. So I arrive at the hotel that night. I'm supposed to start shooting the next day. So I'm online, and suddenly it's like, Heather Langenkamp says she's in the new Hellraiser film. It's been leaked. There's a Hellraiser film. Heather let her down. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, and who's playing Pinhead? All these articles. I'm like, this is really not what I needed today, because I start shooting tomorrow.
Yeah.
But anyway, we shot it, and then so I saw her at Texas Frightmare, and I said, Ms. Langenkamp, I'm Paul Taylor, I'm Pinhead, and blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, and she gestures around the room. She goes, welcome to your new life. Like,
oh yeah,
oh, thank you very much.
Heather,
so I've been doing conventions ever since.
Heather's awesome. She's loves really her sweet. Fans.
Yeah,
she's extremely nice.
She's a sweetheart.
I would love to actually get to work with her one day. So,
yeah. Well, you might. She was in. The reason the casting director thought of her was because she was in his office pitching her movie that she wanted to produce in Oklahoma, and then he was like, "Why don't I just ask Heather if she wants to play the landlady?"
Yeah, I think Heather is from Oklahoma.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah,
she is.
So, okay, we've covered the Pinhead, covered all that. Have you met?
Covered him with goo.
Have you met Doug Bradley?
Yes, I have.
And he was
nice. Yeah,
awesome.
We met at Texas Frightmare, a different this time I was a guest. But yeah, we met at Texas Frightmare, and he was lovely. He was there, Clive Barker was there, 3 of the original Cenobites were there because it was the 30th anniversary of the first film.
Yes.
And they had me there because Hellraiser Judgment had come out. And he welcomed me as, like, I went to a premiere, not a premiere, no. I went to a screening of Hellraiser, the first Hellraiser, because it was the 30th anniversary.
Yes.
And that's why they were there at a studio movie grill. I bought my ticket, I got my seat, and I met them. They had just flown in from wherever. I met them at the place, and they're like, hi, let's go in there. So I go to my seat, and then they come in and they sit on their little chairs in front of the screen, and they talk. Then they ask questions, and I raise my hand because I was really curious. Clive Barker and Doug Bradley met in grammar school, or whatever you want to call, whatever the British call it, in school, primary school, and became fast friends. And they had a theater company called the Wolf. I think it was the Wolf Theater Company. And Clive would write the plays, and Doug was in every single one of them. And I just wanted to know, being a theater actor, and I'm like, what? If you were going to produce one Clive Barker play, which one would it be? What's your favorite? And Doug said, before I answer the question, does everyone know who's asking the question? And I'm like, maybe. He's like, this is Paul stand-up. This is Paul T. Taylor. He's your new Pinhead. So that was lovely.
Yes.
You know? It was really nice. And then the first day of the con was the next day, and the whole weekend we were taking selfies and we were hanging out and stuff.
And that's awesome that he created this role, but he was accepting them.
Yeah.
It's like, you're the new one.
What else is he going to do?
Yeah.
Sorry. But I mean, thank God he's a gentleman enough that he wasn't going to be a jerk about it, because some people people can't handle stuff like that. Like, it's just acting.
I've met Doug one time, and Doug is very, very professional, very sweet man.
But he's very dry too.
Yes.
He's so British that some people misinterpret him. They think he's rude, and it's like, no, he's just straightforward and sarcastic and dry because he's British.
Yeah,
that's what you get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was looking at your filmography. You were in another, I guess you has it come across, I guess it has. You were involved with Sin City.
Yeah, it's my first movie, actually.
I didn't realize that.
Well, it was my first movie that I talk about.
Oh, okay.
It was.
So what was that like for you working?
It was cool. I had just moved back from New York to Texas, and my agent said, "Hey, you want to go down to Austin to audition for a Robert Rodriguez film?" And I said, "Well, of course I do." So I go in there and I do my audition for the worm assistant DA who gets his arm broken by Marv in 3 places, and yeah, I got the part. And so I show up on the set like one day, and I'm in the honey wagon, and just like prepare. The honey wagon is the trailers, the little short trailers that the day players are in. And I walk into this studio, Troublemaker Studios, which is his studio. He built it with his own money. He's such a hardcore guy. He's the real deal. So he's the coolest person I've ever met in my life. I walk into this big studio. It's all green screen, so a lot of it is just like green everywhere, and all these worker bees just running around doing their thing. It's like this is the biggest studio, the set I've ever been on. It's all green screen. There's no real set pieces. There's lighting people, there's sound people, there's gaffers, there's everything, and it's just like, wow, this is really amazing just to watch this happening, all this activity, which has nothing to do with the actors. It's just like, wow, this is all in preparation for action, cut, from action to cut. This is all, everything that surrounds that, and it's the most important thing for now. And so he's sitting over by the monitors on his director's chair, strumming his guitar, and he's like, "Hey, Paul, come over here. I want to show you something." And he's just like, "So see this? We're gonna do that." And then when he pulls you, and there's your table, and it's cool, right? It's like, oh man, I'm not worthy and whatever. But
Well, to work with Robert Rodriguez, I mean, that's got to be a dream come true.
it was cool, and I got to meet Frank Miller, who who did the original graphic novel for Sin City, and I had brought a print down from Sin City, a big thing that I'd gotten on eBay or someplace, and I had him sign it. He was real sweet. Rodriguez quit the Directors Guild because the Directors Guild would not allow Frank Miller to be billed as co-director. So that's, I mean, he's a stand-up guy.
Yeah, that's
He was
awesome.
like, well, screw you, I'm going to do this my way, just like I've always done everything my way, you know? So what's funny is I'm preparing an audition this weekend. I have to put it on tape tomorrow in the room for a Robert Rodriguez film. This is really funny. I haven't been seen for a Rodriguez film since Sin City. And Beth Sepko is the casting director. Robert Rodriguez is writing and directing it. It's shooting in Austin, Texas. And I'm auditioning for a role, a guy in a suit. I wish I had my picture from Sin City right here. A guy in a suit with a tie and glasses. And he's talking to a character named Rourke. Mickey Rourke played played Marv in Sin City, the guy who breaks my arm. It's just like, I think I'm supposed to get this part because it's essentially everything is pointing towards it.
Yeah.
Rourke, seriously? That's the thing. I'm like, I'm talking to Rourke again, and I'm going to be wearing, I'm a little nerd who works at the bank, and I'm just a little role. I don't care how big the roles are.
Oh no, it's just that's our work. So a role is a role.
My job is to audition well. That is my full-time job, is to audition well. And then once in a while I get a gig and I actually get to do what I love more than anything in the world. But my job is to audition and to approach every single audition as if someone has just said action.
Exactly.
And it's going to be the take they use. It's like, no pressure.
Well, yeah.
You just, there's so much competition.
Do you have anything new that's getting ready to come out or just recently come out?
I do. I just saw a few weeks ago a movie called Whitetail. I'm very proud of it. It's a drama / thriller. It turns into sort of a thriller, but it's kind of gothic. But I'm playing a real guy with real problems, real emotional issues, real vulnerability. So not Pinhead, so not anything I've ever played before, and it's the largest role I've ever had. And I'm very excited about it. It's called Whitetail, meaning whitetail deer, because it's about some people who've gone out into the country for a hunting weekend, and a family unit, and they come across some very bad guys who will kill for money. And there's a guy, two of them have been shot and they're dying, and one of them's dying. And there's a big backpack of money. And what happens when there's a big backpack of money and a bunch of testosterone and everyone's trying to beat everybody else, and it's
never good.
It's never good. It's not end well for anyone. But I'm real excited about that, Whitetail. And there's a movie called Butcher's Bluff that is almost finished. It's an 80s, sort of an 80s throwback slasher film, playing a Texas sheriff in that one, which is not typical for me, but that's why it's so much fun. I don't really tend to play rural, believe it or not. I'm much more comfortable in a suit and playing like a little guy who's just like, yes, well, I'm going to be very efficient with you. And it's just what I look like. It's what I do. It's my manner. So yeah, that's called Butcher's Bluff. And there's some other stuff in the works, but I don't really talk about it because I don't know that it's going to happen. But some very promising couple of horror films that I hope this one shoots, because Tunnicliffe, the guy who wrote and directed Hellraiser Judgment, I got him the job in this one. It's called Coulrophobia, which means fear of clowns. Because we don't have enough scary clown horror movies, do we? But anyway, so that's my shot, possibly at playing a scary clown. And what else? Yeah, there's a movie called The Torturer, which I shot quite a while ago. I don't know if it's a short or if it's a short film. It's not very long. It's too short. It's too long to go to the shorts festivals, but it's kind of too short to be a feature. It's somewhere in between. But it's kind of torture. I wouldn't call it torture porn, but it's definitely torture. There's torture to make, and for me, it's torture to watch. But a lot of people like it, so I'm like, okay. It's a thing I did.
Yeah, exactly. If that's
you just do the work.
Exactly.
And I'm just glad that the work is back.
Oh yeah.
So many people lost their industries for a year and a half, and some of them have not even gotten anything back. But at least it's happening again.
Yeah, I know. Shooting our film, we shot in the midst of COVID. In October of last year.
You just have to be careful.
We took every precaution we could, but
yeah.
And luckily nothing bad.
Well, I shot a film during COVID in Oklahoma. It was Reagan. The movie's called Reagan. It's about Ronald Reagan, and it's more about the arms race than anything else. But they do cover the moment when John Hinckley shoots him, and I play one of the doctors who saves his life. And for one of my scenes, I was wearing a mask because I was playing a surgeon, and for another scene, I wasn't wearing a mask. But it's funny, the stars never wore masks, but everybody else was wearing a mask and being very careful. I had to get tested every day or every 2 days, and then 2 days after I got home, producer called me and said, "Paul, sorry to tell you this, but the director who you worked with closely has just tested positive for COVID."
Oh, wow.
I'm like, well, okay. I didn't. If I got it, nothing happened. I got tested again. Anyway, it was freaky. It was freaky, definitely, for everyone.
Well, I guess we'll take it to the audience. Does anybody have any questions for Paul?
Yes.
That's a question. So one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Prison Break. How was your experience working on that?
Cold. Did you see? Well, my stuff was very short. It's funny. I'm in 2 episodes. The first episode I was booked, but I couldn't seem to get anyone to give me my call time. It was like I was supposed to shoot the next day. I was booked on the role to play a very bad older man's assistant in a limousine. It was a limo scene in a limousine, and so I'm giving him some sort of information. Apparently, the scene was rewritten so that it was no longer the trusted associate, whatever the name of the character was. It was one of the leads was giving in this information inside the limousine, so I think that's why I never got my call time. So I ended up calling the costumer because I knew the wardrobe person because I knew her from doing theater and stuff. It's not that big of a business. So she's like, well, this is where we're shooting in the morning. So just I showed up and they're like, oh, you're here, okay. I think they wanted me to not show up so they wouldn't have to pay me. I think really that's what happened. But even though I was booked, I mean legally I had the job. So I show up and they're like, oh, you're here, okay. We're gonna have you open the door to the limousine to let this guy in, and then you close it and you stand there. I'm like, okay, I can do that. It's still a day rate. So, but if you see that episode, you see way in the distance, you see me open the door. A guy gets in, I shut the door, and then a bus passes by, and we go to commercial break. So that was my first episode of Prison Break. That was fine. I got paid, nice. It was a beautiful day outside, downtown Dallas. Well, the next episode I got, because they could use me again, because my face had not been seen, was the coldest day I've ever experienced in my life, in Texas anyway. And we were on Lake Dallas or some lake. It was way north of Dallas. And the water was almost frozen. We were shooting on the lake. There was a pier, and then one of the characters was in a boat on the lake. So I'm sure he was just but they had the units set up, and we had parkas, and we would just be trembling between takes. And then to do the take, we would take off run over and do our thing. So in that, yeah, it wasn't. The scene was very quick. It was like I pat a guy down and they go, "He'll see you now," and that's it. That was my scene. But I remember the director saying, "You look cold. Stop looking cold." I'm like, my mouth is. Everything is shaking. What do you want? Stop looking cold. So it was fine though. I mean, it was an exciting time when Prison Break was shooting. I think there was a time when there were four, maybe 5, but I think 4 different series shooting in Dallas at the same time. That was cool. But Dallas specifically doesn't really have. There's a series right now shooting in Fort Worth, which is great. It's a sequel to Yellowtail. Or maybe it's a prequel. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So that's what Prison Break was like. It was cool. It was literally really cool. So it's nice to get residual checks from 2 episodes when technically, I mean, you can only see me in one of them. It's I've been a bit player for a long time. So to get to play Pinhead was just whoa. So I'm trying to get bigger roles. It's a challenge, But Whitetail was really big. That's nice.
I'm curious because Dimensions we all know about that. Dimensions
Yeah, that went away.
Gone away. Do you know who owns the rights to Hellraiser now? Have they reverted?
I don't know exactly.
Barker?
I know that Clive Barker is involved in a film that they're shooting, I believe, in Serbia. David S. Goyer and David Bruckner are writing, producing, co-producing with Clive Barker, and apparently there is a female identifying person playing Pinhead because androgynous, and so because in the original book, I mean they just wiped the slate clean. There's not going to be a sequel to Judgment, unfortunately, because it was beautifully set up for a sequel.
Oh yeah.
#MeToo just made my. I'm not saying I'm a victim, but when that happened and the Weinsteins just, yeah, all of the people who were involved with with Hellraiser before were gone. So, anyway, I'm not bitter. I'm really not. So yeah, you know, the original lead Cenobite is described as androgynous with a high willowy voice and these beautiful pins, not nails, but beautiful actual pins that are each one jeweled, different color in the grid pattern on the head, and with the smell of vanilla and rot. Anyway, and so I think that's probably what they're going for, is the original descriptions in the book. And we'll see, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be a huge hit. It could, whatever. I'm just glad I got to play it before that.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, that's something not many people get to say. Oh,
No one can take that
Pinhead.
away. No one can take it away.
But do we have any other questions or? Any questions coming in from online or?
So we have one that came in, and I think you might have alluded to this a little bit earlier, but can you talk about any additional preparation for the role? I know you said they kept trying to keep it quiet and you had an idea, but once
Yeah.
but did you that line between suspicious versus just regular audition, did you have any additional preparations going into?
Well, the first thing I did was watch all the Hellraiser films that have come before, because I had not seen all of them. The first 4 were in theaters, and then after that, they were all, direct to video. And some are better than others, obviously. So I watched all those just to see what had come before, so that I could honor that. But there came a certain point when Gary and I talked and agreed that it was time to ditch that. That's already in my head. It's fine. Let's move on. I'm gonna have a different costume design. It's technically a different lead Cenobite at a different point in his existence. And so let's take the script as written. He's older now. I have age spots. And so then it was more about focusing on my own personal experience with whatever I wanted to draw on to feel comfortable as Pinhead. And what it came down to, if you're gonna look like that, you already look like that. You're already godlike in a way, because you look like that. You don't have to worry about it then. Your external is already taken care of. So it's all, what are you gonna do inside? Read it. So I went from the script. The script is about, and Pinhead is all about suffering. He's always been about suffering. It's like, I can make you suffer. I enjoy suffering, so you should enjoy it too. Obviously he basically commits murder constantly. But so I had to go internally to a really dark place, not a comfortable place. I lived in a really scary house in a bad neighborhood, and it was very, so at night I would take long walks in this scary neighborhood where I was definitely a minority, and where I never would have taken walks, I started taking walks. I would dress all in black, and I would just basically be a badass, walking around my neighborhood, walk to the 7-Eleven started smoking, walking to 7-Eleven for my cigarettes. The same 7-Eleven where the first month they were open, a white guy was shot in the parking lot. I'm like, dude, I'm just doing my thing. Just trying to, so there's no fear. Because basically, there's no fear. There's no fear in Pinhead. There's no fear in baseball. So I just, I did that for quite a while and also there were many years where I was sick. I had found out I had hepatitis C about 7 years, I don't know, several years before I got this opportunity. And I had gone through the suffering of declining and hating life and just isolating. And then I got offered the cure. So, a new cure, a new treatment. So it cured me. And then I got the opportunity. So I got to draw on that sort of, I don't know. It helped. I don't even know how to put it into words, but I just drew all the darkness that is so uncomfortable to visit. I would visit there routinely. And then I suddenly was on set. It was like, now I don't have to think about any of it because I didn't have any fear of pleasing anyone. I mean, the first time I put on that costume and makeup and walked through these double doors into the warehouse where we were shooting, I heard audible gasps from the crew and like, oh my God, that kind of thing. And just was like, I've arrived, you know? All that work I did beforehand, maybe I didn't even need to do it because I am now a god. These people, this response does all the work for me. It was, and then I could just relax and sort of be cool, you know?
Let's talk about that. Interesting. How long was the makeup process to get into the costume?
The makeup was only about 2 hours total. They cut it down over the years. I mean, it was the 10th film, and I think that the first Hellraiser probably took 5 or 6 hours because they were piecing it together, figuring it out for the first time.
Yeah.
So this was 2 large pieces and a lower lip, and that's it. And then, airbrushing, and then putting the costume on, which took about 20 minutes. So it was not bad at all.
So you lucked up.
I what?
I said you lucked up.
I
on
did.
that one. By
I
the
did.
time you came, well, they had figured it out.
Yeah, they'd really figured it out. And it's basically a jumpsuit that zips up, you know? It's just, and then it looks like flesh. It's so crazy. I think it's a miracle.
All right. Do we have any questions or?
So we had one more just come in from our online viewers. Do you prefer your voice acting or your live action roles? And how do you prepare or how do you approach those differently?
I do a lot more live action than I do voice. I started out in theater, so that was all about projection and hey, I'm funny and let me make you laugh. And then film is that but smaller and I don't know. The voice acting, it's not really my thing, my voice is not that unique, and so I don't do that much voice acting. I do voices, but that's just sort of for my own entertainment. So really, it's hard to talk about the preparation because with voice acting, there isn't really all that much preparation. You go into the booth, you have the lines right in front of you, and then you just like play around and do it again and do it again. Mm-hmm. So much of my voice acting I've done though has been for anime where there's battles. And so it's like, okay, scream in agony again. Okay, do it louder this time. Okay, make your cords bleed. It's that aspect of it I really don't enjoy. My favorite voice acting thing I ever did was it was for an anime thing, but I was playing a character who was he had leprosy, and so he wore a mask all the time. So I didn't have to match any flaps from the original Japanese, so I could just do it, and I talked very quietly, and that was a lot of fun because I could just mean what I said and just close my eyes basically and do it for the lines I knew. But the other stuff, that's the torture. Doing the torture kind of reminded me of most of my voice acting work because it was so much just screaming in agony or screaming as if I'm killing someone. Right? I don't necessarily, there's emotion connected to all that. So for an actor to be trained to be able to do that without hurting their own vocal cords, I'm not trained to do that. It's I think it's the same as what is that type of it's a particular type of music. But it's I don't know what the hell I'm saying. I don't know. Acting is more fun. I mean, theater, film, commercial, TV is more fun than voice acting for me. It's just not really my thing. But I'm lucky when I get to do it. I like getting to do it.
All right, well, we're getting to the end of our conversation. It has been wonderful getting to know you and talking to you. Is there anything else you'd like to tell anybody or fill us in on before we go?
If you're interested in following me on Instagram, I'm the real Paul T. Taylor, because everybody wants to be Paul T. Taylor, so I had to put a real in there. The real Paul T. Taylor. I appreciate it, the social media thing. But really, just if you're a filmmaker or an actor or whatever, or wondering, how do I do it? You just do it or you don't do it.
Yeah.
Anyone can give up. I just never gave up, and I can't give up. I can't do anything else. I don't. Life's too short. So
Exactly.
I am not deep right now. I'm just like kind of tired.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. Let's give it up for Paul Taylor, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.